Hello everybody, this is part 2 of the Sci-Fi Shipping Crate series. Thank you very much for your interest in this series, and I'm going to continue working on this now. I've pretty much done the modeling and the tweaking. I removed a piece there, I changed the size of these, and just did a little bit of work on this, and it's time to start texturing. So we'll see how far we can get with the texturing. To set us up, I've already gone ahead and unwrapped this because that would take a little bit of time. First of all, let me show you this. I've got everything in collection. So, for example, the scaffold here, if I hide it, you can see it's all those supporting pieces. We got the panels, that's all this stuff. I've got the door, which is this stuff, that kind of thing. I also assigned materials, as you can see here. So all of these pieces that I called scaffold have the scaffold material, and each material can have its own UV. And however, I determined that one UV tile was not going to be enough for all of the scaffold pieces. And so I've decided to use the UDIM method, and you can see I've got multiple UV tiles right here. So if I was to select everything, you can see that I have multiple UV maps. I've got 7 or 8 of them here. And if you've never used UVs before, don't know how to set it up, I would just suggest that you maybe search my channel for UDIMS, UDIMS, and I've done a few videos using them, and you can also look for other videos as well. But what they do is they allow you to separate out the UVs so that you can have more texture resolution. So for example, my panels are here. Okay, you see I've selected those. Just my panels are there. And this one's mirrored to the other side. And I'm not sure I remember what that is. Okay, that's the door stuff is right there, and maybe a couple of other pieces. So you can have multiple UV tiles, UDIMS, and bring that into Substance Painter, and you can apply materials across all of it, or by blender material, and you'll see what I mean soon. So that's what I decided to do. And as far as the UVing goes, it's pretty straightforward. If I just take this, let's say, and isolate it, these are all mirrored, so just a seam there, and around the back another seam to create that. Well, that one just has a seam on the underside here, and then it unwraps pretty nice and straight. Some of these things are a little bit weirder for unwrapping, so you just kind of use your intuition a little bit where things change, and you might want to split it open lengthwise, that kind of thing. So just experiment with that. Worst case scenario, if you've never unwrapped and you don't know what to do, you should of course learn. But if you don't know anything, especially if you're using box-like things, not necessarily a spotlight, you could try cube projection. You could try just smart UV project and see how the results work. They're not going to be as good as if you do by hand UV unwrapping, especially if you want to put text on or some kind of graphic that needs a nice straight UV. But we are ready, and what you would next do is you would select it all and you'd create an FBX and bring it into Substance Painter. So over here in Substance Painter, this is my older version of Substance Painter. I'm going to use it just for now. I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to choose OpenGL, and make sure down here that you put a check mark and use UV Tile Workflow if you've used the UDIM method. Select, I'm going to select it, and open. If it doesn't load and you get an error down here, it's often that something in your UDIMS is overlapping. So you do have to make sure that you pack the UVs, that there's a little bit of space in between. If even one is overlapping a bit, you'll get an error and it won't even load it. But mine is okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. I'm going to turn on anti-aliasing, and it's time to bake the mesh maps. Oh, by the way, as you look at this, notice I've got various materials. I've got the bar, The panels I wanted separate, the scaffold, because I sort of thought I might put different types of materials on it at first, so I wanted them kind of separated out. Turns out I'm going to put the same kind of material on pretty much everything except the spotlights might be a little bit different. But basically everything else is going to have this sort of dark brownish kind of metal, as if this thing has been left maybe on a planet and it's just abandoned or whatever. So we'll see about that part. But at any rate, I need to bake the mesh maps. Now this may take a little bit of time as I set that to 2K and uncheck ID. And I'm not going to change anything else because of the UDIM method. There's a lot of stuff. That took a couple of minutes, but it's done. Now is the time to look at your model and see if you have any problems with it, any big black splotches or white lines going through it. But it looks okay, and we are ready to go. So let's go over to the texture sets, and let's start with the panels, which is this part here, to create this material. So yeah, to do this, I'm going to create a fill layer. I'm going to the properties, and under here, material mode, I'm going to search for metal. And this one here, I think this comes with Substance Painter. I'm not sure. It's called Steel, Rust, and Wear. You could try any of them, but this is a really good starting point for what I want to do. I'm going to drag that into material mode, and you can see that that's on the panels and on the doors there. And then I'm just going to go through, and so I basically want that color. That's fine. The noise is fine. The metal roughness, the imperfections, 0.5, 0.1. Man, I don't even really think I want to change any of that. I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to right click, add filter, and the filter this time is not the one that you expect. It's going to be this matte finish grinded. I'm going to put that on there, and that'll just give a little bit of these slashes, kind of something like that. Scale 3 grinding intensity is fine. It loads everything I need, so I'm okay with that. And the only thing is, I don't think okay, good, normal's not on, and that's going to be fine for that. Okay, so there's my sort of base metal layer, and that was Steel, Rust, and Wear, I think. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to leave it like that, and that's good. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some dirt. The usual stuff, create a fill, use color and roughness. The roughness I'm going to drag up quite high. The color, I'm just going to bring that up and take a dark brown. It doesn't have to be black or anything. I mean, dirt's not black anyhow. And I'm going to use the dirt generator. But I'm going to dial this back. So there's just a little bit of dirt in there and going into crevices, as I always say, in the crevices. And again, this is sort of an abandoned crate, you know, on some planet or some back factory area, Scilab or whatever. So my dirt level is okay. I'm going to leave all of that there. I'm just going to call that dirt, and I'm going to go over to caps. I'm just going to call this down here actually metal. That's fine. So we got some dirt. Okay. Next thing, another fill. This one is, I'm just going to alt click color, but I'm going to change the color down to about there. We'll try that. I'm going to do some edges, black mask, generator, but this one's going to be the curvature generator, and that puts a light gray on the outside. Let me just check my values. I'm going to use a balance of, let's go 0.7, a little bit lighter there, and that's okay. Let me just go back and check my color. Let's bring that up a tiny bit. Okay, good. All right, so that's my, I'll call this edge curvature. All right, now I want some rust, and I really want this rust coarse. I'm going to grab that and drag that in, and it covers pretty much everything, all my panels, top and bottom, and the doors. And I'll come over here to the smart masks, and I'm going to search for rust, and I'm going to use this edge rust, drag that in, and you can see what that's doing. All right, that's kind of intense. Let me come over to the mask editor here, this bottom one here, and let's change the global balance to maybe 0.3 to reduce it. We still definitely have it. Now it's very speckly, and I'm going to show you something in a minute with respect to that. Maybe the curvature, let me actually come back to the curvature for a second here. Let me just make that 0.68, just a little bit less. Okay, so the rust. Now, I am not a really good artist, but if you wanted to, you could add a paint layer here and come over to the brushes and search for something like a dirt brush. I'll try that. And as you can see, when I do this, it can paint rust in, so you can reduce the size, you can change the flow, and if you have a good sense of where there should be rust, you can put rust in there. Maybe I'll just put a little bit and pretend I know what I'm doing, like this. But the other thing that you can do is you can also press X and delete some of that. And just in general, let's see if you can see, I'm getting rid of some of this dust, see? Or dust, rust, that kind of thing. So you can go over it and then go back over this to reduce the effect. I also want to show you something. Let me come to my alphas maybe, or maybe brushes. And just scroll down and find some other, like this. Let's try. Okay, let's see. Now let's go to my alphas. I just want to look for some kind of splotchy thing. Like, there's no height difference in there. If I wanted that, say, cutaway, I don't particularly like that, but if I found something and I wanted a big piece there, let's just say, I can erase that. You say, okay, I want to adjust the height, so let me come to the height. And you go, well, I drag this material into here, and there's no availability for height. There's nothing I can do. When that happens, what you can do is come to the black mask where you have the actual rust on it, and add an anchor point, and it's going to be called whatever the layer was called, rust coarse. So you've got an anchor point there. If I create a new fill layer and alt-click height, just height, this is going to control the height. Let's say I want it to go in. Nothing's happening yet. All right? But if I come over here and I add a black mask and a fill, but in the fill, in the grayscale, instead of putting a texture, you go to anchor points and choose this. You see that this is notched in now? So now don't worry about all this. We'll talk about that in a second. So I can come back to here and I can control the height doing this with the anchor points. But this rust, like I said, had all those speckles. So if you wanted to use this, you could come back to the paint layer, X, make it black, and maybe reduce the flow a bit, maybe even use a dirt brush, and you can get rid of some of this stuff. Here, let me do that actually. I'm not sure I'm going to use a height in this particular case, but just reduce that, make sure it's black, and you can get rid of some or all of this. Well, probably never get rid of all of it, and that's just because this particular material had a lot of speckles in it, and but if I wanted to use this method of cutting out, and then I can come back here and whoops, let's see if I can okay, yeah, I painted that in. Okay, so let me try there. You see I'm getting rid of that that thing there. If I come back to the paint and I want to do a bit more, I can add a bit more rust, and and it's carved in a little bit for damage. So you do whatever you want. But anyways, I'll leave it like that. And I'm not doing anything over here. I could do the same. We could get rid of some of this. And you might want to just take a dirt brush here and just kind of lightly tap over it to get rid of some of that stuff, or spend more time on it. I'm not going to really bother. This one's, I think that's mirrored. I'm not going to even worry about the back. Okay, if you want to do that kind of thing. All right, so this is height adjust. Okay, so we've got that stuff going so far. I think what we're going to do is we're going to create a folder, and we're going to take all of this stuff and we're going to put it in the folder. And this is going to be the, metal, whatever, metal material. What is metal, whatever. All right, so let's just go on a little bit. Maybe I'll do a layer of scratches. Height, we'll drop the height down a little bit. Roughness, whatever. And maybe I'll try dark, and we'll see what that's like. Okay, so I've created that. I'm going to add a black mask. I'm going to add a fill. And then come to here, and I'm going to search for scratches. This last one, and maybe decrease the balance, and just get a few more imperfections in there. Now, once again, sorry, I just forgot. I want to come back to this, and maybe I'll make this minus 0.1 if I even really wanted to use that. I wasn't sure that I was going to do that, but I will leave it on because of the speckles. And I may change my mind, okay, when I bring it in and I want to render it and I decide I don't really like all the indentation-y type stuff. I might just want it straightforward. And I might go in and clean up some of that. I just want to do this quick so you can see the material itself. So we've got some scratches here. And you can decide if you like those, or you can randomize it and stuff, but just some overall scratches is fine with me. And at this point, it's really time to add some text, but I'll do that in a moment. Oh, and by the way, keep in mind that we're only at 1K with these, so the scratches will really show up as we move up to 2K. And of course, you can manipulate these. Normally, I wouldn't just leave them like that. I would probably decrease the quantity, the width. I like them narrow, that kind of things. But I'm just going to leave it like that. What I wanted to get to though is you can make a smart material out of this. You just put it in a folder, give it a name, right click, create smart material, and then you can drag it onto everything else. But I'm also going to take this, copy that, and I'm going to come to, say, the scaffold, which is all this stuff. Get rid of the default layer and just paste it and give it a second to update, and we'll see what it looks like on here. All right, now I want to just see what it's like without the height. I actually don't think I'm going to use the height, and I may go back and get rid of some of this. So I'm going to hide the height for now, and yeah. All right, let's take that and let's put that on some of the other stuff as well. And put it on the bar. The bar might need some work. Let me just see. Yeah, let me get rid of that for the bar. And the curvature here is too much for that bar. So I'm really going to lower that. Just want it like that. And let's go back and grab another one of these metals here. And where are we now? Spotlight. Actually, the spotlight includes these little lights I put on the side, so I'm going to throw that on there. And then we'll have to do some work on this and clean that up in a bit. All right, we're going to put some text on here now. And so I'm going to switch to orthographic and snap into front view. And I'm going to create a fill, and I'm going to have, let's say, color. I'll start with just color and see how it goes. Black mask, paint layer. And I have created some graphics here. Shipping crate label 2. All right, I created that, and it's just white text on a black background, 1024 by 1024. And so I'm going to import that, and if you want, I can make it available, but you could just do any kind of text you want. I'll just show you again. Where is it? Shipping. Here it is. Okay, I'm going to take that. I'm going to open. I'm going to define it as an alpha, and I'll just use it in my current session. So here it is. You can see it's just white text on a black background. I saved it as a PNG. You could do it as a JPEG. All right, and I'm going to come to the properties of the paint layer and scroll down, and where it says stencil, I'm going to drag that into here, and it shows up on here. So I'm going to press the what was that, tab? So I'm going to full screen, and you can increase the size of your model, or you can hold S and what is it, S, yeah, and your right mouse button to make that small or whatever. So I'm going to do that and increase that, and it just move it, and S until I get this S a little bit smaller, and I want to have this there, but I don't want this alpha, this dirt. I want the stencil, this alpha. I'm just going to do that, and let's get brushes, basic hard brush, and that was actually fine there. Okay, I wonder if I could make it a little bit bigger. Make it as big as I can, roughly in the middle of this area. Now I don't want to hit this. I just want to, and I can make my brush smaller. I'm just going to click and drag over this. And if I do come down and hit that, I can just erase it. Oh, that's not what I want. So I want to make sure I get all that. I'm going to slide this down and have warnings xenomorph down there maybe. Maybe I can make it a little bit bigger. And put it somewhere in there. Like that. And then I'm going to slide this across and try to keep it relatively level. Maybe I'll put it in there. And you'll notice the underlying texture is coming through as if this is painted on, but we'll grunge it up a little bit as well. Let's just zoom out and see what we've got. I'm going to put something else there. Okay, let's say we're done with the stencil. What we'll do is we'll X out of there. And on the same layer, you don't have to, but I think I'll do this on the same layer. And it come to alphas, and I think I'm going to choose this one here. But what I want to do is I want to have a few of them. I don't want just one. And so I'm going to switch the spacing here. So scroll up, spacing. And can I use the mirror? Let's see if that'll do it quickly. Do that. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted 3, but maybe down a little bit. All right, that's good enough. Okay, I can get rid of that. I want those. And maybe up here I'll do the typical, like, I don't know, max load stuff, whatever they say. So I'm going to type font and choose a font that you like. I might just go for this kind of typewriter. We'll see if that works. And then just type something in here, or let me think, like 470G G89. I don't know what that is. Just tap that in there. Interstellar. Okay, decrease the size if it doesn't fit. Just put that in there. You know, something like that. Okay, good enough. So we have, let's go back to perspective and see how we're liking that so far. So let's grunge that up. This is, first, before we do that, let's just call this text. So on the paint layer, we can come to brushes. We can do our trusty dirt brush. Okay, so this is white. Press X to make it black. And if you do this, you just start, you know, kind of erasing away, almost looking like there's dirt on it. And just tap on it here and there. So we can do that. And, yeah, I don't really like that one. And maybe what we'll do is we'll also try, I want to come back to this calligraphy brush. Just to sort of, well, you can choose whichever one. Maybe I'll try that one. Yeah. Just I want to kind of cut away some of the letters completely. So just tap here and there, or just drag a bit. And yeah, you know, that kind of thing. I would like to put a hazard strip up here. I don't have a material for it or anything, but I'd like to put it on the scaffold. So I'm going to close that up. And this will be the last thing we'll do in this video. I'm going to go into orthographic. And above this layer here, I'm going to add it. I'm going to, let's say we add, first of all, folder. And let's call this hazard strip or stripe, whatever. I'm going to add a fill. I'm going to drop that in. And for the moment, I'm going to leave that on color. So it's white and everything's white. I want to define an area, and I'm going to do it on the folder. I'm going to create a black mask. I'm going to turn on symmetry, so we have the axis right there. And I'm going to come to my alphas and choose a square. So I want to define a region that I would want this. And I want, like I say, I want it to stretch across. So I'm just going to decrease the size of this. And maybe almost like the width of the doors. So I'm going to click here and drag across. And you can see my area there. I think I'm going to do that again. A little bit bigger. Just like that. So that's going to be the area that we're going to do the hazard. Now, again, it takes, you know, back and forth to see if it's going to work for us. But we're going to start with that. And I'm going to come down to my fill layer here. And let's get some stripes going. All right, so what have I got on here? I'm going to want color. And the color I'm going to want is that kind of an orangey yellow that you would typically see. Okay. And I might click metal so that this doesn't really look metallic. Roughness, a little bit shiny. We'll start with that. And I'm not going to deal with height at this point. We might, but we'll see. I'm going to add a black mask. I'm going to add a fill. And I'm going to come into the grayscale. Clear that. And I'm going to search for stripes. So there they are. And I'm going to switch this to triplanar. And I'm going to come down to the pattern. And I'm going to change this to, I think, 16, first of all. No, actually, let's sharpen this up a bit with that, the contrast. And the width I'm going to use is 0.5. The shift is there, but I want to change my rotation here to 90. And I'm also going to change the scale to 2. And I'm going to have this. I think I'm going to like that. Maybe I'll just do that. Okay, so I want them relatively equal. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another fill. I'm going to drag it below, and I'm going to use color. I want it right in the folder, by the way. I'm going to use color, roughness, maybe metal again, and let's just go ahead and change this to like a black color. So that's basically what we're going for. And actually, maybe I'll bring the roughness up on these. Okay, now there are two layers here. I've got the orange creating stripes, and I've got the black creating stripes. And you can still fiddle around with the size of these until you get them more, even. Maybe something like that. And because I've got the two layers, I can play around with height on here if I want. Like, so for example, if I raise the height on this, the yellow's there. And then you're going, well, I want it to look like an even strip. So what am I going to do? Try to match the height with that one? It doesn't quite necessarily work. So just like before, I'm going to turn that off. On this folder mask, I'm going to add an anchor point, hazard strip mask. If we decide we want it this way, I create a fill, say I only want height, bring the height up, just make it exaggerated for now. Add a black mask and a fill, and in the grayscale, choose the anchor point. Make sure you choose the right one, and now I got the whole thing raised up. If I wanted, that on a bar or something like that, and then I can come back here and just raise it just like a tiniest bit or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm going for that look. I just wanted to show you. I'm going to go back to perspective. I think on the stripes layer, I'm going to add a paint layer, and with my dirt brush, I'm just going to, maybe not that much, add some grunge on this thing. And maybe we can also chop it a little bit. Let's add a paint here and choose something that we can use to sort of cut little pieces out of this. Let's see what would be good. No. Well, maybe. Anything like that. Just like that. So we've got some damage on there as well. Okay, and this is a, we'll call it stripe height adjust. Okay, so this is what we have now, and under this particular lighting, you can then experiment with different lightings. So we can switch this and see if we, like the effects under that lighting. I usually like that lighting, and this is what we're ending up with. All right. So what we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to clean this texture up a little bit. We'll have a look at maybe a variation of it, work on the spotlights, and then we'll get this back into Blender or possibly into Unity. I'm not quite sure as we get to the end and sort of wrap this up. All right, so thanks very much for watching, and I hope you'll tune in to the next video. Take care.